Ready? Excellent, thank you. Can you all hear me back there? Yes. Okay, outstanding. First, I want to begin by reiterating the thanks that Rabbi Baruch spoke about the hosts. This is a very beautiful evening, very beautiful place. The food is delicious. I don't know what that was, but the food is delicious, and I'm just overwhelmed by what I see here. I have to tell you, not working?
Working.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. So I'm overwhelmed by. I really am overwhelmed by what I see here because I have the privilege of speaking from time to time in other cities, in other places, and speaking publicly sometimes is intimidating. It's intimidating because you're there in front of your teachers. It's intimidating because you're there in front of people who you feel have some kind of control or influence over you, or you just don't want to embarrass yourself. Maybe you're there in front of your parents or your wife or your in-laws. I really mean it. This is going to sound a little bit like I'm just trying to make you feel good, but I really mean it. I was so overwhelmed. I'm glad that I had maybe half an hour here before I got up to speak because I was so overwhelmed by how beautiful this is. I was so overwhelmed by just who made this decision, this beautiful plate? Who deserves the credit? Is that the Rabbi to come and bought this plate?
Everything, Angela.
Unbelievable. Just everything that I see here, it's like I walked into a palace of Kedusha, sanctity, of people committed to each other, of committed to something special. I'm really overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed by the ruchniut and the gashmiut, by the spirituality, by the tzniut, of the way people carry themselves, of the dignity that you bring to this event. I'm overwhelmed by it. I really mean it. I know it sounds like silly maybe to some of you. I wish I could show other people just how magnificent the dedication is to the details, that this is like a simcha. You come together to learn and it's like a simcha. I'm speechless from it. I really am.
Thank you.
So I'll begin by sharing an idea about Hanukkah that's not so much related to what we're speaking about, but it's also related. Hanukkah is just a short time away, and in Hanukkah, one of the main prayers that we say is Al Hanisim. During Birkat Hamazon and during the Tefillot, we add another prayer where we say thank you to Hashem for making the miracles, and we say, as you all know, we tell the story. Bimei Matityahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Now, I'm not 100% sure it's the same for Ashkenaz and Edot Mizrach Sfaradim, but I think this is the same. I'm pretty sure. There, we talk about the miracle. We were there in the hands of the Yevanim, of the Greeks, and they wanted to make us forget the Torah. They wanted to distance us from being Jewish people, from being the special, different people that are the Jewish people. And whoever wrote the portion called Al Hanisim wrote, Masarta giborim biyad chalashim, v'rabim biyad me'atim, utmeim biyad tehorim, urushaim biyad tzadikim, v'zeidim biyad oskei toratecha. Same?
Yeah.
Okay. So it means like this. You, God, gave over into the hands of the weak, you gave the strong. Into the hands of the few, you gave the many. Meaning, even though we were the weak and we were the few, we defeated them. Thanks to Hashem. And then there are three more things it says. Even though it says the righteous beat the evil, the pure beat the impure, and the ones who did avirot, who went transgressions, they fell into the hands of the ones who were involved in Torah. So I had a very close teacher. My son, I have a little boy, 2 years old, Meir. He's named for my teacher from high school. A very close teacher in high school, Rabbi Eugene Zichrono Livracha. And I heard him ask this many times. Whoever wrote this paragraph, he wrote that the many fell to the few. That's a miracle. That the weak defeated the strong is a miracle. Should go the other way. But the other three parts don't seem to be miraculous. So what? I think I got bonus points. Yeah, I stepped on something over here and I got bonus points. Yes. Okay, so the evil should not defeat the righteous. Why? The ones who are engaged in Torah study, why should they lose to the ones who do Ahavat, transgression, sins? The pure and the impure, these are descriptions, but they're not miraculous descriptions. They're descriptions of these two groups. Two of the things are miracles. The few beat the many. The weak beat the strong. That's a miracle. But why is it a miracle that the pure lost, that the pure won, the ones involved in Torah won, the ones involved in righteous deeds, they won? So listen to what he taught. He said the truth is that the ones who don't care about spirit, you would think they would win in a war that's not about spirit. You would think that if I care to study Torah, to use part of my time to learn Torah, I'm not going to be the best soldier because I got to use all my time for physical things to get ahead. I have to use all my time to perfect being stronger than the enemy, to be the best at war. The Jewish people, they're involved in tzidkut, in being righteous. They're in oskei Toratecha. They involve themselves in Torah study. They're tahor. They act with purity. They concern themselves with standards. If you have all these extra rules, you're never going to get ahead. You're never going to be so strong that you're going to beat the enemy. So he taught us that it's also part of Hashem's plan. Hashem takes care of the ones who involve themselves in Torah study. He takes care of the ones who act with righteousness. A person is tempted to steal. Let's say, I have to steal because my children don't have anything to eat. You have to not steal. And Hashem will provide. Hashem will protect. A person says, I don't have time to study Torah every day. I don't have time. Yes, you do have time. You eat breakfast every day. But I won't make as much money. No. Hashem has the way of providing. We make our efforts. You know, many of you here are younger than I am, so maybe you never heard of something called a phone book. You know what a phone book is? Okay, so in the phone book, if you want to get ahead, you call your plumbing service a plumber. And then you're first in the list. And you think, oh, now I'm going to become a rich man. Okay, you have to make your effort. But Hashem is the one who provides that the person has the problem with the pipes. And then that he chose this one over that one in the yellow pages or whatever when he did the web search. We have to trust Hashem that even if we will engage in spiritual things, that he will be there for us in the physical things. So it's part of the miracle. We were few, we were weak, and we were spiritual. And yet we won in a physical fight. Because Hashem was there to protect us at that time, this time of year, and in all the generations. And the reason I want to share this with you, besides something to think about Hanukkah coming, is that this gathering is your giving Hashem the only thing you really have. The only thing you really have is your time. And you're using your time for spiritual greatness, for trying to be a better person, for trying to be a better husband, for trying to be a better wife, and a better parent, and a better community member. Right now, don't run out. I'm about to say something, please don't run out. Right now, you could make more money if you left right now. Because maybe you can jump back in your car and give somebody a ride, get paid. I got a new car recently. I actually thought maybe I should do Uber. I got a new car. My car is clean for the first time in my life. I could be an Uber driver. Okay, then 3 days I didn't become the Uber driver, the car was a mess again. So I was putter. I don't have to be an Uber driver anymore. There's always to make money. You can run and make money right now. You can run and do something else that's not for your spirit, but it's for your body. You can go work out. You can go cut a deal. You can go sell another house, whatever it is. You can go do the work that you have to do. And everybody here has important things to do. But you're stopping yourself to do for Hashem, for your wife, for your husband, for your children, for your people. Beautiful thing. And Hashem is going to provide. He's going to take care of you. I know it. That's exactly what we say when we light the candles. We say, a little candle. You know, out there, there's a lot of lights. Some of the lights were bought here, and they were even put here on the pool fence. But they're out there. There's all kinds of lights this time of year. All kinds of lights. And what's the Yidela? The little Jew, he lights one little candle. One candle. But this is the rule. A little bit of light pushes off a lot of darkness. This hour, this half hour, whatever it is going to be good for your whole week, for your whole year, for your whole month, for your whole life. A little bit, Hashem asks us, give a little bit of your time, and I'm going to take care of you. So that's the Jewish army was fighting after they were learning Torah. Fighting while they were keeping pure. Fighting while they were being righteous. And Hashem took care of them. And He's going to bless you the same way, Bezrat Hashem. Okay, so we're back talking about husbands and wives. I guess I was popular last time because I was invited back. That's good news. Now I've spent a whole few weeks thinking that I'm the worst husband in the world. And how come I gave this lecture a few weeks ago? And now I'm going to give another lecture? Today I was like nervous talking to my wife, like, how can I go and not be a good guy and then go and give this talk at night? But then I found out that what you want me to talk about is when you argue. So I argued with my wife all day today to become an expert of how to argue. So these were the 3 questions I was given. What steps should a husband and wife take after an argument? How? Okay, it's not open mic time yet. I'll give you the phone. I'll give you mic soon. How to answer so that you don't escalate the disagreement. That's a big word. I hope everybody knows what that means. It means it was a little argument. Now it becomes a big explosion because one person said this and then that, and then you're talking about my mother. Okay, but you know, that's not nice. And then the third part is, how do you deal with your in-laws? Oh, listen to the groans in the crowd. Unbelievable. See, I would tell you if you want to deal with your in-laws the best way, you should move to Phoenix. But the problem is that your in-laws followed you here, or you followed them. My parents live thousands of miles away. I'm good. Many thousands of miles away. Yeah. Okay. So, let's talk about a little bit of what we spoke about last time. I think we covered this idea. You know what? I don't think we covered this. Let me explore this a little different way. When you come into this world, on the day you're born, everybody is born with their fists, with their hands closed. Everybody comes into the world like this. And the goal of your whole life is the job of opening your hand. That's the whole process. You come into this world like this, taking, and your job here is to become a giver. The word me or mine or I, any one of those words, takes on a whole new meaning when you do that incredibly unselfish thing called getting married. Now, in truth, nobody gets married for unselfish reasons. Everybody gets married for selfish reasons. Everybody. There has never been somebody who went on the first date and said after the first date, I went out with this girl. She was not attractive at all. She talks the whole time. We have nothing in common, and she wants me to carry her bags. I think I'm going to go out a second time. Nobody says that. Actually, what everybody says is, I went out with this girl, and she wants in her life what I already wanted. So I'm checking off a list for me. This works for me because I'm selfish. And that's okay. It starts selfish. But what you find out when you get married is that the person you married is not created for the purpose of doing all your selfish needs. That was not why she came into the world. That's not why he came into the world. They have their own destiny and potential. You have your own destiny and potential, and you come together for one shared mission. And in sharing the mission, you prepare yourself to not be a taker, but to be a giver. Now then, if you're blessed by Hashem, you become an even greater giver. I think I told you this last time. I have a very broken relationship with 8 people. There are 8 people that in my life that are in totally unfair relationship with me. I deposit money in the bank, and they spend it. Okay? Yes, exactly. It's my kids. They're crazy. They do nothing for me. I bring in all the money, and they go home. They go and they spend it. And they call me, the older girls, especially whatever, it doesn't matter. I won't say different kids, different amounts that they call it. I got to do this and this and this and this and this. I never said to one of them, "You, what do you mean? I got to do this, 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 and this. So where's my money from you?" Doesn't work like that. Parents are givers. And what that means is that family life for an adult is a process of becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger giver. In fact, the definition of being big is being a giver. Listen to this beautiful idea expressed. There's batteries? Batteries are out? Okay. Somebody once told me that when you speak to groups of certain ethnic backgrounds, you got to scream at them anyway. You got to give them a hard time. They were talking about certain men from a certain area in, maybe...
Morocco?
No, they were there. No, I think it was maybe like Uzbekistan or something like that. Said, you got to take them by the shirt and tights to yell at them. So now I have an opportunity to yell at you. It's great. Okay, so now... There was a book called Sharei Yosher by Rav Shimon Shkop. And in the beginning of the book, he writes like this. Listen to this, a fascinating idea. Listen, this is amazing. When Moshe Rabbeinu grew up in the house of Paro, when he got bigger, the Torah says like this. Vayigdal Moshe. Moshe got bigger. He grew up. Vayigdal Moshe. Vayetze elachav vayar b'sivotam. Moshe got older. He went out to his brothers and he saw their pain. This is right before the story of Moshe seeing the Egyptian is hitting the Jewish man and he fights him and kills him. Vayigdal Moshe vayetze elachav vayar b'sivotam. Moshe got older. He went out to his brothers and he saw their pain. Says the Sharei Yosher, do not understand this as a simple this, then that, like a simple story. It does not mean first he got older, then he went out, and then he saw their pain. This is what it means. Vayigdal Moshe. Moshe got bigger. What does that mean to get bigger? Vayetze elachav vayar b'sivotam. He went out to his brothers and he saw their pain. The definition of being bigger is carrying more burden on yourself for other people. That's what it means to be big. That's why you can have somebody who's old, but he's a baby. And you can have somebody who's young and who's already a grown-up. Because that person says, I grew up. It means I'm no longer only thinking about me. And so the natural way is, man or woman, I get married, and I begin to care about somebody else. We have a family, we begin to care about more people. So that when I, personally, if I have to make a decision of what to do this summer, it gives me pleasure that my children should have pleasure. So I spend money on their camp, and I spend money on their travel, and whatever it may be, to the best of my ability. I don't say about myself, the kids, they fend for themselves, I'm going away. Doesn't work like that. So with our children, it's natural for us to understand that we're providers for them. That's what it means. I'm going to say this again. That's what it means to be grown up. To be old. By the way, gadol means big. I believe the reason we call the greatest men of the generation the Gdolim is because of the same idea. They wake up in the morning and they shoulder the burden of all of Klal Yisrael. You have a question for the rabbi, and he stays up at night to figure it out. When Chacham Ovadia Zichron Livracha was going in for surgery the night before he went in for his last surgery, he had to solve a question for a woman whose husband was away. Maybe he can be considered as if he's gone, therefore she can remarry, and he didn't go to the surgery until he figured it out. That means to carry the burden of the people on your shoulders. That's what it means to be gdolim, to be gadol, to be big. So everyone here wants to be big, right? You want to be big? You don't want to be called small and be, I'm just small. No, you are big. You have a family. So you have to be big. So with our children, it's a little bit easier than with our spouse. Because with our spouse, we naturally, if we're not thinking too much, we go back to the thinking, she's here to serve me. He's here to serve me. He's here to provide for me. Now, how do I know that? I know it because when a person comes home and his wife points out a mistake he made, she said to him, please, on your way home, stop at Safeway and pick up the prescription. And he gets home and he forgot to pick up the prescription. That is a minor error. There should never be a Shalom Bayit problem because he forgot to pick up the prescription. It's a small problem. It's a small problem. Okay, we were out of time. When are we going to get it? The kids were going to go to sleep. Now you have to go back. And if it's still, no matter what you say, it's a small problem. Small problem. But here's what happens. He walks in the house and she says, where's the prescription? Now, sometimes the guy is such a meshugana, okay? And I know meshugana is, even though it's really a Yiddish word, meshugah is Hebrew, meshugana is Yiddish, it's universal. Everybody knows what that word means, okay? So he's such a meshugana that before she even says something not nice to him, he's already feeling she's attacking me. All she said was, where is the prescription? And he says, I forgot. So now she could say, you always forget. It's a proof it's not important to you. I'm not important to you. The kids are not important to you. Or she doesn't say that. All she said was, where's the prescription? And he says, why are you attacking me? I'm sorry, she just said, where's the prescription? But he says, why are you attacking me? Or he says, she says, where's the prescription? And he says, I forgot. And then she does attack him. And then now he has to make a choice. Many people make the following choice. Counterattack. You think I always forget things? You last week, you forgot everything. If we left this place to you, we would have already been on the street. Because you remember that 5 years ago you were going to pay the mortgage, but you were forgetting, so I had to take over. Now we have nearly a war. Started with, by the way, one second. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you this question. Okay, ready? What did it start with?
The small problem was the prescription.
Him forgetting.
Yes, it did. That's right. It did. That's right.
Okay, but only humans make mistakes.
He has to own that he made a mistake. He has to own that he made a mistake. Where's the prescription? Oh, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. It's important to me. But I forgot because I was on the phone. Not that that's an excuse. Let me remedy it. Let me go fix the problem. Before there's a war, we have to make sure we don't start with counterattacks. So the first thing there is there might be just a question or a criticism. By the way, let's change the whole story now. He's now on the one. They have an appointment, and it's time to get to the appointment because the plane is going to take off. You know, it's not an appointment like coming to the shear that you can come late for. The plane is going to take off. Plane is going to take off, and he's ready to go. And she's inexcusably not ready to go. In other words, when she thinks she's ready to go, what she doesn't realize is that the suitcases weigh 60 pounds each. So we're not ready to go because we got to get rid of 10 pounds each of the suitcases, which anyway, by the way, who told you we were taking suitcases? You have to pay $60 to take those suitcases. We're not flying Southwest. We were going to fly JetBlue. It costs money for the suitcases. Now this could be a total war, okay? Because he's about to say, you don't pay any attention to the details. And we're late. Here's my first thing I want to tell you, my friends, is that if you're thinking, yeah, that reminds me of my wife, yeah, that reminds me of my husband, you're thinking all wrong. Okay? First of all, it reminds you of you. Okay? It reminds you of you. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes, every one of us. But before there's a fight, we have to own our mistakes. I was wrong. Those are very hard words for some people to say. I'll tell you another set of words very hard for people to say. Thank you. You know what thank you and I was wrong have in common? They're both an act of humility. They're both a statement that I am not as high and mighty as I thought I was. I'm not perfect. By the way, you know what you know about yourself? You're not perfect. You knew that anyway. But you can't stand it when somebody else tells you you're not perfect. And the word, by the way, for admitting and for thanking in Hebrew is the same word. And it's the same word for vidui. Modeh means lehodot, the whole word, that vidui is all one word that means being humble. So a person has to remember, I'm not perfect, and I got married to give. I didn't get married only to take. I got married to grow up, not just to be served. Are you with me on this? I am here not for my own serving. Not that people are going to serve me. I'm here to give. That's a very hard level to reach, but that's very important. That is what marriage is. Marriage is hard because I'm expanding myself. I'm growing up. I'm growing up like lifting weights. I'm growing up. I'm getting bigger. And bigger means more and more and more of a giver. Not more and more and more of a taker. Okay, before I go on, let me see if there's questions. I feel like I lost you all in the last few minutes, maybe. So argue with me. Or give me examples, but don't talk about your...
Perfect time to pause, so go ahead.
And here's what the answer is.
It depends on generation.
It depends on a lot of factors. Everything's going to be generalized, and it's going to be more true in this family and less true in that family, and so on. But one thing is for sure. In general, men are more concerned with their ego than women. Men are more concerned that when they grow older, everyone should know they're important. Okay? They want to be important. We talked about this last time. Women want to be taken care of, loved, and appreciated. Men want to be thought of as important. So the issue is that it is a humble moment to say I was wrong. I'm sorry. You have to be willing to say, even when I say I'm sorry, I'm still going to think, okay, I'm okay. I'm not admitting that I'm a piece of garbage. But some men feel if I say I was wrong, then I don't feel as strong about myself because they have low self-esteem. They don't feel good about themselves. So they need other things to tell them, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good. And if they have to admit that they're wrong, then they for a moment think that they're bad. You follow? Does that make sense? I want to tell you a story that happened in my own marriage. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later also. This is a true story. I once came into my house. My wife had asked me to take out the garbage. I forgot, or I got distracted, or whatever it was, I didn't take out the garbage. And in the kitchen, the garbage bag was still there, and it was getting higher, and I messed up. So my wife said, "Can you take out the garbage?" And I want you to hear how ridiculous what I said back was. She said, "Can you take out the garbage?" And I said, "You know, I'm a good person." So she says, "Okay, Mr. Good Person, can you take out the garbage?" Do you know how twisted that is what I said? You know, I'm a good person. That was not in question. There was nobody questioning. There was no big courtroom of people waiting to find out, is he a good man or a bad man? There was just, can you take out the garbage? But my response was, you know, I'm a good person. Now, you see, you're not laughing about this simply because it's like a cartoon. Okay, like, you're laughing about it because you know that we all do things like that a little bit, especially the guys. Like, are you best line ever. Okay, Mr. Good Person, can you take out the garbage? You know what I did? I started laughing right there. I caught myself in my ridiculous nature. I started laughing in the kitchen. Thank God it was late at night. Because I think I would have been a little upset if she said it in front of the kids. Because then I would have said, I am a good person, right? Okay, so now, why did I say that? I want to tell you why I said that. Because some of the mistakes that we make are that we make associations. Somebody says one thing, and I put it into this big box. My husband, my wife says something to me, and they hurt me in a place where I'm easily hurt. They didn't do anything. And I want to tell you, this is very important, okay? I'm going to use Rabbi Leviev as an example here, okay? I'm afraid to move because of the camera.
Am I the wife or the husband?
You just come stand next to me so we can honor the camera, okay? You're not going to know. This is simple. This is simple, okay? Watch. It's very simple. You're neither the husband or the wife, okay?
I'm it?
I want you to tell me if this hurt.
No.
Okay, I'm going to do it again. Did that hurt?
No.
Okay, you sure this does not hurt?
No.
Okay, it doesn't hurt. Now, what if he had surgery in this spot and there were stitches right down this spot, and then I went like this?
Okay.
The pain would be excruciating. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it. The pain would be excruciating, right? If I touch somebody with hardly a bit of a touch in a place where they're already hurt, the pain is excruciating. That happens every day in marriages. Every day, a person comes into the world with pain. And my spouse says to me things that are totally nothing. It's a nothing. It would be like somebody dropped this piece of paper on me and I started screaming. You mishuga. Screaming like that from somebody just touching a piece of paper with you. But what I'm going to tell you, this is scary what I'm about to say. The pain was created most likely by your parents. Okay? In other words, that's not to knock parents. I also have them. They're wonderful, and I'm also a parent. But the nature of relationships with parents, so primary, so real, so heavy, so defining, that if I felt my father was not respectful to me, then if my wife says, can you take out the garbage? You know I'm a good person? Yeah, nothing. What are you, crazy? But the fact is that people are walking around filled with pain. But don't take out your pain that you have in your life, and that's okay. We all have that pain. Don't take that pain out in your marriage. Because this all part of this, by the way, is a secular concept written about by, I think the doctor's name was Harville Hendricks, in a book called Getting the Love You Want. And it's the primary idea of a psychological philosophy called imago therapy. Imago is when you have a husband and wife and they're not getting along and you want to help them. What they're really looking for is healing from earlier problems, earlier pain. and there are people trained to help them to work through their problems, because you know what? The truth is, in a loving relationship, you can look your wife in the face, she can look you in the face, you can look your husband in the face, he can look you in the face, and say, I want to help you, I love you. I want to help you. I want to get through that. We actually enter on purpose, psychologically, in our own marriages, we enter into situations where we test whether my spouse also is whatever it may be. Like, somebody was stressed out by their parents. Like, my mother was hyper, let's say. She was just always high intensity. So why would you marry somebody who's also high intensity? Because you're trying to heal. You're trying to get better. And so what I'm really... I could go on and on about this, but I'm not qualified. It's a very important idea. But the first thing I want to tell you is, before you lose your cool about something, realize that you're making an association about it that has nothing to do with the situation itself. It has nothing to do with the situation itself. That's the joke about the garbage. Is that the garbage was about the garbage. What I was associating it with doesn't matter. It probably has to do with my parents. Maybe it has to do with a conversation last week. Maybe it has to do with the pain somebody else inflicted on me. Whatever it may be, I'm blowing it out of proportion because I'm associating with something else. And we tend to do this, by the way, in the attacks. We tend to take something small and put it into the box with all the other things and say, aha, again you're doing this, that, the other thing. Aha, I have more proof that you are this. It's not nice. It's not fair. We would never want to be judged that way ourselves. We don't judge ourselves that way, by the way. We make mistakes in ourselves and we forgive ourselves. We just go on. You know, we just move on with things. But in the dynamic of how intense, I want to tell you, that is not the silliest thing I ever said. Okay, I'm going to tell you what the silliest thing I ever said was, and I'm going to say it at risk of saying it on camera. I actually am a little uncomfortable saying this on camera, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think I mentioned to you last. Okay, keep it on. I think I mentioned to you last time that I have an identical twin brother. I know I mentioned it last time. For those who are, so I'm an identical twin. I have never had my own bedroom in my whole life. Okay, I'm in my 40s. Never once did I have my own bedroom. Okay, when I was a child, I roomed with my brother. The older ones left the house. We chose to stay in the same room. Then I went to yeshiva. I had a roommate. Then I got married, and I've had a roommate. Okay, it doesn't mean that I'm always welcome in the room. Okay, sometimes I'm too big of a mess or whatever it may be. But I have a roommate. I never had my... So, here I was on the eve of my marriage. I was like the night before or 2 nights before. And this is the silliest thing I ever said. I'm embarrassed to tell you what I said. I said I feel more well prepared for marriage than many other people because I grew up as a twin. My brother and I were always together. It's on tape. Now I said it. Okay? Like, that is the dumbest thing a person could ever say.
That's what you meant.
I thought. Yeah, like, we shared a room. We lived our lives like this. But here's the difference. When you live your life with your brother, it's 2 lives parallel. When you live your life with your wife or your husband, it's 1 life. At the age of 23, I did not know that. I did not understand. I can't believe I said that. Okay, here I am 19 years later, I figured it out. Okay, I figured it out about 19 minutes later. Okay, yeah, it was very little experience taught it to me right away. Okay, it's a mishuggah. The point is, you have 1 life. You're trying to merge 1 life together. It's very hard. It's super tough. It's super tough because it's 1 life, and therefore it's high intensity. And therefore, because you're sharing 1 life, and my destiny is wrapped up in her destiny, and we have the children, and we have our future, and we have our contributions to this world, and we have our meaning. Everything's wrapped up together. Finances, very tough spot in marriages. It's all wrapped up together. Because that's true, we're always on edge. We're always on edge. Like, where are you trying to steer us? What did you mean by that? If my brother had said to me, you didn't take out the garbage, I would have just said, you take out the garbage. Right? Like, it's so ridiculous. So my point is, friends, that we get lost quickly in the first moments when we could have simply said, that's true, I made that mistake, I was wrong, how can I remedy it? what can I do that's best? I'll try not to do it again. And by the way, even if your spouse comes back and says, that's not good enough. So you say, I know it's not good enough. But now this is where I'm at. I made a mistake. I want to correct the mistake. Yeah, but now when you correct the mistake, you'll miss bedtime because you should have done it before you got home. I know, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Nobody has the energy to keep fighting somebody who doesn't fight them back. I'm going to repeat that. Nobody has the energy to keep fighting somebody who doesn't fight them back. If you have a community fight is like a fire. You have to have oxygen fed to the fire or the fire goes out. So if you stop fighting, the fire goes out. No big deal. They're looking for a fight, want to pick a fight with you, and there are some people, I hope you're not married to one, there are some people who are addicted to fighting. They love to fight. Every day they're looking for a fight. If you don't fight with them, it goes away. So you repeat yourself, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. I'll try to do, and you got, by the way, do better next time. Don't just speak like you're going to do better next time. Next time, do better. So that there won't be a fight. Okay, now. Come on, more questions, because I have more to say, but I want to make sure that I hear from you what you want me to say. What do you want me to talk about? What do you disagree with me about? I don't, you came here to have fun. I mean, this is very heavy, we're talking about these things. Make fun of me. Go ahead, yeah.
What can a person do? Like what sfarim, what books or literature, anything, websites, Torah websites, is there out there if a person wants to learn how to make himself more of an anav, to lower himself or lower herself to the point where they can start admitting their own mistakes and to try to overcome that?
Okay, excellent. So Rabbi Daniel is already on to the next step, which is that if the root problem is that my ego is bruised, how do I work on that problem so that I don't have the same reactions when I'm in my marriage? I'm going to tell you something very important for men. Very important for men. Okay? And I'm just going to give it to you straight. Men have to pray every day, 3 times a day, with sincerity. I have a joke, but I think it's true. If a man will pray shacharit in the morning, and then he skips mincha in the afternoon, by the time he gets to arvit at night, he is convinced he created the world. He needs 3 reminders a day that he did not create the world. Because if you will pray properly, which means you realize I'm dependent on you, God. I praise you because you're the one who gives me everything I have. I request from you because you're the one capable of giving it to me, and without your giving it to me, I don't have. I thank you for everything that I have because you're the one who gave it to me. I'm not better than other people because I have this. I'm just luckier. I'm just more fortunate. You gave it to me. The act of prayer is an act that engenders anivut, engenders humility. And it is very, very important. It's important for men and for women, but it's more important for men. Does that make sense, that compute? Prayer is to praise, request, and thank. If you really thank and you really mean it, you'll find that you will become more humble. First, you do the acts. That's a very important idea also. Adam nif'al achar pe'ulotav. A person becomes the actions that he took. So you have to act the right way, and then you'll find out that inside you start feeling that way. So if saying thank you, and I want to tell you another thing, very important. Every person should speak to Hashem outside of regular davening. Every person should have where I feel I'm about to get up and speak, and I'm intimidated. Hashem, please give me help. I think I did speak well. I walk away. There's appreciation. You say, Hashem, thank you for my life of learning and the skills that you gave me and the success we had tonight. A person should be in a constant relationship talking to God, because one of my teachers taught me Okay, very important question.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, Rabbi Leviev just asked, if somebody has a weakness in himself, he has a problem, let's say a character problem, do I recommend working on it yourself or working on it together with your spouse?
Together.
Yourself meaning also with other people, psychology, whatever.
I'm going to tell you something that may not be very popular. People sometimes have challenges they can't share with their spouse. It will be too explosive in the context of their marriage. it will be too explosive for somebody to say that he thinks the wrong thoughts, or she says to her husband she thinks the wrong thoughts about whatever it may be. Too explosive. They want to grow. They want to be better. So here I'm going to tell you something I think I mentioned last time because I talk about it all the time. Chazal, the sages already told us how to handle it. Aseh lecha rav uknei lecha chaver. Make for yourself a teacher and acquire for yourself a friend. And the Rabbi Yonah says that the friend is more important than the teacher. Because the friend is somebody you can share with. Sometimes you can't do it alone, but it could be that your spouse is not the best person to do it with. Follow? Doesn't mean you're trying to hide anything. I'm not suggesting hiding anything.
But what if they find out later, then what?
They'll be very proud of you that you were working on it.
Oh, but is it going to cause a big problem?
I don't think so. I think if a spouse finds out about their husband or their wife, that this person admitted they had a problem of some kind and was trying to deal with it, they will find admiration for that. That's what I think is going to happen. They're not going to say, "I wish you would have told me that you're a ganev." Okay, that you steal all the time. You had problems where you're cutting corners and you were cheating in your business, whatever. So you admitted it to one of your friends and you were working on it and you went to go see somebody who could help you with it. I admire that. That's cool. That's awesome of you, trying to grow and be a better person. I want to be married to somebody like that who wants to grow and be a better person. Sometimes the answer is with your spouse. Depends on what it is. Right? Sometimes. By the way, if the issue is, let's say, we didn't talk about in-laws yet. Okay? If the issue is with your in-laws, your spouse might be the worst person on earth to talk to about it.
Oh, yeah.
It might be the worst. But it doesn't mean you can't talk to somebody. You need to talk to somebody about it, and I'll come back to that topic. So it just depends, I think, on what it is. Question?
I know of a couple that I spoke to the husband, and he keeps telling, what happens when a person keeps saying, she's the problem. She's the problem. He says, I'm not the problem. She's the problem. So you really don't have, it's not really going to work because he doesn't feel he has a problem.
Okay, the question was, what happens when he says,
or him. Depends.
Either way, she's the problem or he's the problem. No, they can't say about themselves that I'm the problem. The problem is that person. How are they going to remedy this situation? Okay, first of all, we all start by believing she's the problem or he's the problem. We need a correction. When we start talking to somebody will point out to us that you are usually creating the distance that you're describing. That's what happened with me last week when I called one person to say, how do I deal with this? He right away said to me, you're not doing enough to create the dynamic that will do this. Now, I mentioned this last time. Women by their nature are more dedicated to the relationship and the notion of relationship than men are. It's a very important idea. Men are more naturally selfish than women are. Women are more naturally giving than men. You know, by the way, the word compassion in Hebrew is rachmanut, right? So the word in Hebrew, all words are interconnected when they have the same letters. Not so in English. In English, parents and parentheses may have nothing to do with each other. But if those were two Hebrew words, they would be the same. So it's not surprising that the word for a uterus is a rechem. The defining element of the woman's anatomy is a rechem. Because it's the seat of rachmanut, of compassion, of caring, of taking care of the child. And basically, that's the nature of women. To be bonded, to be connected. Very much so. To be bonded and be connected. So that reality makes it that the man has a lot more potential to change the dynamic of the marriage very quickly. Because if he will only mensch out, she by nature is wanting to give to him. I mentioned last time, and I really mean it. If you have naturally divided responsibilities in your home, where she, let's say, does a lot of the home responsibilities, if she sees that once every 5 or 8 or whatever days, he did the dairy dishes, the milchig dishes, she feels like he cares. He wants to carry the burden with me. She doesn't ask that he does it 50% of the time. Sometimes in the new era, their arrangements are 50-50. It's not really working, by the way. Okay? Derech Agav, there's a third 50 when it's 50-50. Okay? The third 50 is 50% divorce. Okay? So it doesn't really work, the sort of total divisions. But carrying the burden, a man has tremendous power to, because his wife wants to build him, she wants to give to him, she wants to dedicate herself to him, much more than men do naturally. Okay? So But having said that, I think anytime somebody says it's all their fault, they're definitely wrong. I have an exception to that. Sometimes there are people who are ill. Okay? And that's a fact. Mental illness is a reality you have to deal with. Sometimes there's no correcting somebody. But I would be very hesitant to go that far until you really said, that's for sure the case.
The thing is, she was brought up in a family that everybody yells. So to her, yelling at the kids is normal. To him, it's not normal.
Right.
So to her, there's no problem. And to him, it is a problem. So you see how they're both right, and yet they're both wrong?
That's a tough situation. That's a very tough situation. I don't know what to say about that. That's a tough situation. Look, culture clashes are very hard. Very, very tough. I don't have an answer to that. You'd have to make the point, if you were the guy who says there shouldn't be yelling, you'd have to figure out a way, not in the moment, totally separate time, you'd have to figure out a way to make the argument that where we live in these days, in this era, this system no longer works. But that'd be very hard. Okay, another question. Go ahead.
Of course, I would be asking the question after. And nowadays, with the kids being brought up, and there's maybe with your experience and what you see out in the world, what's really, maybe you can help, is the cause of kids growing up, drug epidemic, and I've seen kids in religious families going up completely off the derech. What would be the root cause of that, would you say?
Okay, so the question is, what's the root cause of kids going off the path or getting involved in even drug addiction or things like that? It's not one size fits all, but I would say I will tell you one thing I think is prevalent. If parents want their children to be observant like them, they cannot only give their children the words that were said at Har Sinai, meaning the Chumash, the Mishnah, the Talmud, the rules. They have to also give their children the spectacular experience that happened at Har Sinai, where you saw God, and you saw wonderment, and you saw thunder and lightning. Simcha in the performance of mitzvos. Exuberance, excitement that I am privileged to sit in my sukkah, not burdened to sit in my sukkah, is probably the number one thing that will contribute to children who say, I was never even tempted to go off the path, because the most delicious thing in our life was the passion with which my father knew Hashem when he was lighting the Hanukkah candles. The passion with which my mother knew Hashem when she was lighting the Shabbos candles. That's a big thing. Now, that's a much bigger topic. But that, I would say, is one answer. And I hope I'm right, because I have staked my entire education of my children on this thing. That is the number one cause in my life, is to give the kids a sense that we are privileged to know Hashem and to be in contact with Hashem and to perform His mitzvahs.
So that alone, even with all the distractions and the phones and the apps and everything around us.
Well, I would say, listen, there's a lot more. There's a lot in the details. You can give that over to a kid, but if you don't make the right choices about those things, like the phones and whatever, then it's in one ear out the other, because you're giving them an opportunity to go off the path right there in your own home, in their bedroom. Nightmare, disaster. But in one thing, if I had to nail down to one thing, I think that's a big, big contributing factor. Okay, listen, folks, the hour is late, but I didn't talk about in-laws at all. And I didn't really talk about what do you do after you're arguing. So I'm going to say those two things very, relatively fast. What do you do when after you're arguing? Here's the number one problem people have. The number one problem people have when they're arguing is no one's listening. Okay, no one is listening. You're only listening to find out when the person across from me has stopped talking, so I can start talking myself, or when they're talking lightly enough that I can yell over them. Okay, so if I ever meet with a couple, which I don't do a lot of, but on occasion I do, if I ever meet with a couple, I have found that most of the time they can work it out themselves if only they're listening to each other. And so I say to them, right now, you're not going to talk at all. Only your wife is going to talk. You're going to listen. And there's going to be a test. The test is that you're going to have to tell her what she just said. And once you tell her what she just said, if she is satisfied that she knows that what you said, that what she said was heard, then you'll get a chance to talk. So then the guy fumbles around, he has no idea what she said. But you do this a couple, 2-3 times, then he finds out that he can figure out what she said because he did something. There was something all new for him. He listened to what she said. And the vice versa, the same thing. This is not gender specific. He's talking and she's not listening, and she's waiting to whack back with her next volley. So the most important thing you can do, if you can do it, by the way, sometimes you need a third party, but if you can do it alone, the most important thing to do when you're having an argument is, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. I want to make sure, did I get right that this is the point you're saying? Oh my God, by the way, that's like candy to a woman. You want to say it to a woman, she's so happy with you. Did I get right with and by the way, especially if you ask a question in the details, ask your wife a question about the details of something she just told you. Oh, Simcha Rabba. Okay? So, you make sure that you were heard, make sure that you were heard, and then we can have a conversation. So when we have a disagreement, first thing is to make sure everybody's heard, and now you're heard, and now we can go back and forth, and a lot of times they'll figure it out themselves, right there. Okay.
Would it be proper to say that the third party should never be a parent or an in-law?
Okay, good question. Would it be proper to say that the third party, if you did invite somebody else in, should never be a parent or an in-law? I will tell you that there are exceptions to what you said. In general, you're probably right. My father-in-law is an extraordinarily accomplished shul rabbi. Okay? And I'm crazy about him. And I would happily invite him in to be the third person. Okay? But that's unusual. I get that it's unusual. Very important. It's unusual, and it's got to be agreed. The third party is worthless, by the way, if there's a sense that it belongs to one side or the other. Nobody wins. Nobody wins. Okay, now, that's a good segue into in-laws. Okay, the problem with in-laws very often is the in-laws themselves. Okay? In other words, in-law parents do make mistakes. They make mistakes. I once had a case where somebody came to me, and it wasn't even a Shalom bias problem. Just a man told me that his daughter is coming to visit. So I said, how long is she coming for? He says, 3 weeks. So I said, no, she's not coming for 3 weeks. She's coming for 2 weeks. She's coming for 2 weeks. So I said, when are they arriving? So she says, no. It's only her. She was newly married. She's coming alone for 2 weeks. I said, why is she coming for 2 weeks alone? He says, well, it's expensive, so I told them if they come for 3 weeks, they can both come, I'll pay the tickets. But if they come for less than 3 weeks, I'll only pay her ticket. Okay? He doesn't understand. Actually, it was a passive-aggressive way for the guy to basically still maintain sort of control over his daughter and not allow her to be married. Okay? It was a terrible, painful thing for me to hear it. I was so pained by it. I did not have the kind of relationship with this man where I could tell him, you're doing something wrong. He was just telling me, I wasn't connected to him where I could say to him, excuse me, partner, what you're doing is horrible. Couldn't say it. But so sometimes the in-laws are the problem, especially when you live in close proximity. And what I would say is that it's important to, like anything else in your life, it's important to identify alone time between a husband and a wife that is not overwhelmed by their kids and not overwhelmed by their parents. I think that every single case is going to be different, one case to the other, and it can be very hard. And I can tell you, I don't know how much experience I have because I have never lived within. In the first 3 years of my marriage, I lived 600 miles away from my parents and 600 miles away from my in-laws. Since that time, I have lived more than 1,500 miles away from my parents and more than 1,500 miles away from my in-laws.
So the solution is to move away.
It might be. So I don't have a lot of a great experience about it, but I do know that what I would say is I have more to say to the parents of the children than to the children themselves. To the parents of the children, I would say, give your kids space. Now, by the way, I admire and I'm jealous. In many Sephardi families are more careful with this than Ashkenazi families. From what I see, is that they share a lot of Shabbat meals. Is that true in your community?
That
You know,
we share more.
yeah, the Sephardi families share more, right? Is it true? Yeah. Sometimes I know people they never like. We have a joke in our community. Is like, when did you make your first Pesach? Okay, when did you make your first Pesach? It's like, oh, we were married 20 years before we made our first Pesach. Yeah. In your community, it's like, when did you make your first Shabbos? Right? You know, we were married 20 years before we made our first Shabbos. So if that's not working, if it's not working, so you got to find a way to make space in your life for you time. Just the two of you. Amazing things happen when it's just the two of you, and I don't do it enough. I can tell you, I have a friend who's a rabbi of a shul in a different city, and he told me he's married 21 years. No matter what, he and his wife go out on Wednesday nights. No matter what. He says if he's invited to a wedding, they don't go to the wedding. Okay? Wednesday nights is just for them. So the more you do this just for them is going to be better. And I know I kind of skirted the question because I don't have it really clear.
What about Friday nights, Rabbi?
Listen, I got to go and to make other people happy all over town. I can't answer that question. There was a question over here?
I actually wanted to ask a question about date night.
About date night, yeah.
Date night.
Go ahead.
So, how do you make date night? It doesn't have to be every single week, which will be great for somebody. But how can you actually have a date night coming from your husband and not always from your wife? Because when it comes from your wife, it feels like it's like he's doing too much on him. He doesn't want to. Then he feels bad to say, and then when he does say no, it's a whole big issue. Why it always comes from me and not from you? So how do you make it coming from him and not from her? Exactly.
Okay, so look, in every relationship has to understand, again, I'm not here for me. I'm here to give. I'm learning to be a giver. I got married to learn to be a giver. The more you focus on that, the more you will give your spouse what your spouse needs, and you won't be asking, what do I need? So any man who sees that his wife wants to spend time with him should say, I'm here to give you. Now, it is very hard. Sometimes there's immense pressures. There's financial pressures, right? Or it's hard to find babysitters. You know, there's money pressure, or it's hard to find babysitters, or whatever it is. And one of them tends to be the one who is always willing to give up on the date night. I don't think that women have that cornered. In other words, I think it's in different relationships, it's different. You know, he's always willing to because he's anyway outside and doesn't worry about the details. And she says, you're willing to, but who's going to put the kids to sleep? You know, like so it depends. It depends on the marriage. But I would say we have to strengthen ourselves all the time to be givers. Right? And the more you have that, the more now. It's also good to have understanding in your marriage about what the expectations are from each person. I'll give you an example. Last year, I was in the year of Avelut for my father. Everybody in my life had an understanding that the minyan comes first. There is nothing I'm going to do that's going to miss Kaddish. Nothing. I don't care. There was not one moment of the year where somebody could say, but it's $1 million. I would say, doesn't matter. We were all in. Now, here I am right now, and you know who put my kids to sleep tonight? My wife. She does that most nights. I was home for a short time today. What am I doing here? We have a set of understandings that this is what we're doing here. That I'm here to help people, so maybe I'll have a chance to do this tonight. If I'm invited back, I want to come again. I don't always handle it right, by the way. I don't communicate well enough. I don't remind her in advance. I don't do earlier in the day what I could have done later in the day to help out. You know, like just now I'm thinking to myself, did I clean the Shabbat table last night? Because Motzei Shabbat, cleaning up the dining room is my job. Did I do that? I think I did. I went to an event last night too, but I think I did that before or after. I don't remember. I know I did not do the dairy dishes, even though I said I would. You know how I know? Because I heard much later in the night the sink go back on. My wife was doing that, and I said, "Oh, I finished. I did it bad." So the point is, I remember that feeling last night. I only have one. It's, you know, two. That's the answer. 2 dishwashers makes it our happy marriage, right there. Yeah, especially if you can hire both of the dishwashers. There's 2 guys who come over, right? So I think I don't know if I answered the question well, but I would say if you have a sense of what we expect from each other, that this is going to happen every Wednesday, this is going to happen every other. Maybe some people can't do it every week, so it's going to happen every other. And there's a sense of what we're dedicated to, and we remember ourselves. I'm here to give you. I'm here to serve. I'm here to make you happy. Then I think it will foster it. But I don't know if it fits every couple exactly the same.
Rabbi, it doesn't mean you have to go out. It's just alone time.
Yes, it does not mean you have to go out.
You can go to the backyard.
Yeah, you can play boggle. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything.
You're just sleeping.
By the way, friends, it's later than I thought it was going to. I'm going to end with this one thing. I want to end with one thing. Okay, this is something my wife taught me last week, and I mentioned it already. But when it comes to exactly. When it comes to your spouse, your wife, your husband, or your children, or anybody in your life, the number one thing you can give that person is time. I want to tell you, when you think you're giving them time, and I'm the worst at this, when you think you're giving them time, but there is a phone in your hand, you're not giving them time. You're not there. You're not. You need to say, all I have here is you. I know I'm going to die someday, and I want to be makdish. I want to sanctify this hour of this life to you. I want to give you the whole hour. Right? So time is number one. And that's alone, and alone time is when the two people are giving each other their time. It doesn't matter what the setting is, as long as they're giving each other their time. Okay, I'm going to stop now. I'm not going to leave, though, because the food's too good. So if you would like to ask after, whatever, but now you're free, and you can do whatever you want. Thank you for listening.